that. And we are recording. So now you hide, Carrie? Is that what that is? So today, like I was saying, so welcome to, this is like basically session 4 of what we're covering in live content. And I want to talk about cravings. And I think maybe it's intended that we're supposed to cover this now because we are going into the holidays. And this is when I think lots of cravings come up. And so I wanted to ask you guys questions and get your opinion on this about cravings. And are all cravings bad? Or are some cravings good? What do you guys think? And when you guys have a craving, what's your emotional state that goes with that? Anybody want to share? Carol?
I used to have a lot of cravings. It was more of like the chocolate peanut butter no-bake cookies because it was once a year. Because I'm not a baker, so I don't bake very often. So it's more because of the kid thing. So if that was the thing that I craved at Christmas, it was that. But now it's more of the cranberry oatmeal cookies.
Okay.
So that's really what's taken over, like the holiday crave.
Holiday craving for you right now. So you're definitely finding yourself like it's seasonal. It sounds like.
Yeah.
Do you crave cookies the rest of the year, or just when they happen to be around?
I don't really want them either. It's just I think it's one of those things that like at Christmas time, my parents cook all kinds of cookies, and that's the one that I want. If I had to pick one, that would be the one.
Okay.
I guess that would be more of like a holiday deal, but I'm more of a chips and dip kind of girl if I want anything.
Okay.
Me too.
The chips and dips, the savories.
Yeah.
Yeah. How about you, Carol? What do you crave?
Lately it's been like ice cream.
Ice cream. Interesting.
Yeah.
Are you normally an ice cream person?
No, not really. So, and when I get stressed, I need something sweet. The more stressed I am, the sweeter it needs to be.
Okay. Interesting. How about you, Angela? My queen of watching everything that goes in your mouth. What kinds of cravings do you have?
Probably chocolate is my biggest one, but I find that more recently I go more towards dark chocolate than milk chocolate. Like I think I want milk chocolate, but then when I eat it, I'm like, ugh.
It's too sweet, right?
Yeah, it's like it gags me. It just like it hurts my throat. It's so sweet, like you can't swallow it. It's weird.
Yeah.
So
It's
I definitely go more towards the dark chocolate now than what I used to. I wish they made dark chocolate Reese's peanut butter cups. They need to invent that.
Oh yeah.
There is actually, so I'm going to actually like write this down because there are several ways that you can make them yourself with dark chocolate. And another one that is an okay thing. And these are treats, right? Like we don't want to talk about like gorging on them all the time, but
Yeah, you don't need a whole bag of it.
right. But Justin's, have you heard of Justin's peanut butter?
Yes,
And
I like it.
So he is from Boulder, and he has some dark chocolate peanut butter cups. And I think there's probably less sugar in them than Reese's. And you know that it's good chocolate too, because I think he uses organic ingredients where, yeah, Reese's not so much. Interesting.
Oh, come on.
I know, right? So cravings for myself too. For many of you guys who have heard me tell my story, just my health journey, chocolate covered almonds like used to speak to me from the pantry cupboard as I was like going, oh my gosh, what is that? And I've never considered myself a sweet person. I too am a savory person where cheese was that like have to go to thing. And it's interesting because you guys all, Well, Angela didn't talk about it, but and I didn't ask you, Stacy, like how have your cravings changed since being more aware of health and the impact that it has on you? Have you found that yours have changed at all?
I think I found just in general that I have a lot less cravings, and that ties into everything that I've had to give up, all the gluten and the dairy. I used
Uh-huh.
to be like you. Cheese was my favorite food, my
Yes.
go-to snack, the one thing I thought I would never be able to give up.
Yeah. I mean,
And
meals around cheese, right? Like,
and I'm from the Midwest, so it was like all about cheese.
yes, everything is in the casserole, and you buy
Yep.
bulks of cheese, and it's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Um,
everybody used to like make a broccoli and then pour like cheese whiz on it.
yes.
So gross.
I still, yes. Oh my gosh, like the cheese in the can, not necessarily,
Yep.
it might be Cheese Whiz, but oh my gosh, I used to like love that stuff on wheat then. So crazy.
Like spray cheese.
Yes. It's
Sweet
like,
cheese,
that
that's
is
what we
not
call it.
cheese, right?
Not real food.
It is all practice. um, so it's interesting because as we're going through this, we've all heard this, right? We've heard about emotional eating and what does that mean? And we're talking about it a lot here in our house. We are getting ready to do a 12-day detox. And as we're preparing for that, mentally, some of my household members who will remain unnamed are like, oh my gosh, like we have to have cookies now because soon we're not going to be able to. And it becomes this like, oh my gosh, I can't, therefore I must. And
Yes.
so, right, it's like you have this mentality of I can't do it, so therefore I have to like pack it all in now. And so it's interesting as we go through the holidays and as we go through life, think about what, like every single craving means something, right? It's not necessarily bad. Your body is telling you something. That something can be a deficiency in a mineral or even not getting enough protein or fat in your diet. And so you're feeling not satiated as you want to be. And so your body's like, oh my gosh, I need something. There can be this concept of a yin and a yang where if you're eating one kind of food that in excess, your body is automatically going to try to balance it out with the offset. So if you're eating a bunch of sugars, your body might try to offset it with getting some really good protein or something. And so you find yourself, your body is constantly trying to rebalance itself. There are lots of things that happen at the holidays. I was kind of surprised, Carol, when you're saying that you're craving ice cream right now. And typically those cravings of ice cream happen when it's hotter out and your body is looking for a way to cool itself down. But you hit on it there with stress and sugar.
Mm-hmm.
I always crave ice cream when it's cold.
Do you really?
Yeah.
How funny.
Snowing, I definitely want ice cream when it's snowing outside.
That is so funny. I love it. And I'm not an ice cream person. I think because it hurts my teeth. And so when I think about eating ice cream, I'm just like, ew, I don't want to have that. But it is interesting, and as you guys are going through just your journey, keep track of your foods, right? And as you're tracking them on your daily tracker, and you've got the pluses and the minuses of it, is this adding value or is this not? Take it a step further and say, what is it that I'm craving? And is there a reason for that? Is it because it's the holidays and there's things that are tied to memories? We might have certain things or events that we go to on a regular basis, and that might be eggnog or some different kind of a dessert or something, or you're going back to your family like Carrie was talking about. Her family makes all different kinds of things. So those can be tied to all kinds of things. And so there can be the deficiencies in your diet, or there can also be deficiencies in any of those primary foods. So again, take a look at your the circle of life and say, okay, what is happening right now? Have I seen a dip in any one of these areas in my circle of life that is causing me to want to fill that gap? Do I want to feel cozy and eat a bowl of ice cream? Like, that sounds counterintuitive to me, but you know, if that's what you're craving, like, you could be filling some emotional needs. If you've got more stress going on, you're filling some sort of a gap there. The point is to be aware of it and potentially crowd out those cravings by really taking a look at them and saying, is this real? Do I need this food? Keeping in mind everything that we eat. Is it adding value or is it detracting value from my overall health? And it's fine to have treats every once in a while if that's what they are treats. So definitely pay attention to that as you go. Now, I was surprised. Carrie and I were having a conversation earlier today, and I have seen it a lot recently. What season is it right now, especially when it comes to Starbucks?
Pumpkin spice.
Ah, yes, it is pumpkin spice season, and oh my gosh, I will not, as like, I have this saying of there are certain things that you read and then all of a sudden you can't unread it. You cannot get it out of your brain. I don't know, pleasure or the sad misfortune of reading the ingredients of what's in a pumpkin spice latte, and I cannot get that out of my head. And so I will not drink one of those. Now, that's not saying that there's not other bad things that I put in my mouth and are just as bad, so I can't be judgmental about that. But
just don't ever read the ingredients of those things.
Right. I'm like, okay, ignorance is bliss. But there's rarely anything that I don't read the label on. So there's different kinds of things like that. And coffee. How many people used to be or still are addicted to coffee?
I was, but I found that it's more the creamer.
The
Honestly,
creamer.
that I was addicting it more.
Okay.
And I think with the holidays, I used to crave pumpkin spice. I was one of those people that was in line all the time. And I only had like 2 this whole season, which is pretty impressive.
Yay! Celebrate.
Yeah, it's just not good. I found that if I need something, I go and I get a chai instead, and I'm just as happy.
Uh-huh.
But I would say that in the for a holiday drink, if I had to have something, it was either a peppermint mocha or it was the gingerbread. And that's probably just as bad, but
Yes, it's one of those things where it's like there's no value being added there. And I think you hit on it, like, Carrie, it's, oh, were you going to say something, Angela?
I used to totally be addicted to coffee too.
Uh-huh.
But then once I read the ingredients of what's in the creamer and decided that I no longer wanted the creamer, and I tried all sorts of substitutes in the coffee.
Uh-huh.
And now it's like, if I can't have the whole thing, I don't want it at all. It's and so, I mean, I would rather have my coffee with real cream and real sugar.
Yep.
yeah.
Than to mess with all these funky flavored creamers and whatnot. I'll just take real cream and real sugar, and
Yep.
I'll take that sparingly,
Yep.
you know, and then I just don't drink coffee at all.
I'm kind of like you, Angela. I'm getting to the point where I'd rather just not have it at all. But there's,
Yeah.
if I want something, I'll go get a little bit of the vanilla. I've
Yeah.
tried vanilla bean. I tried all that, but I don't know.
And I'm not a fan of the coconut milk creamer. I'm not a fan. It's weird.
Yeah.
That's my personal opinion.
It was pretty weird. I don't know if it's like a change of, because I'm used to the crap. I'm trying to get something better. I don't know what I'm trying, but
Yeah, and all that's good. How about you, Carol? Are you a coffee person?
I used to be not too much at all, but when I do drink it once in a while, creamer, and I'm using real sugar now.
Yeah.
I didn't use it for years, so.
Yeah. And are you using like half and half or some of the like coffee mate creamers?
I think whatever is available, but it'd be like probably a half and half. I don't like the coffee mate creamers. No.
Good. Don't try to go back. That's good. How about you, Stacy? Are you still drinking coffee?
Four plexus. Like, and I love coffee. I love the taste of it. And I would drink it and with like a coconut creamer, crappy, and like it tapped out my adrenals. And so I just quit drinking it. And then I started taking plexus, and then, I think it's just been more recently, like the weather cools down and it's kind of like almost the ritual of I love the taste and it's warm. Yeah. And so I have had it here and there. I'm definitely not addicted to it. I might have it like once a week, twice a week max. I tend to like matcha green tea or like a green tea instead if I'm going to do something. But now when I do have it, and maybe it's because it's not every day, I don't have any negative effects from it. Sometimes it would even give me a stomach ache. So now when I have it, I just drink it black with like a little packet of stevia. I am, however, very interested to hear more about your bulletproof, because I know we're going to go there.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, so I definitely want to hear more of what you have to say about that.
Okay, so it's interesting because I love coffee. I have had it with just half and half in it for a very long time. Then I went through a period too of realizing that coffee beans in general are probably one of the most pesticide sprayed crops that there is. And so when you think about what you're putting in your body and, kind of goes in line with the organic versus non-organic and commercially raised or grown and produced, there's definitely a difference. And so I'm definitely of the belief that if you're having coffee, you need to make sure that it's really good quality coffee. Dunkin' Donuts coffee is not coffee. Like, I'm like so surprised, and I'll probably offend many people on the phone or on listening to this, but that to me is not coffee. Flavoring inside the beans, I'm afraid to know what that flavor is coming from. It seems like that's probably chemically created. So definitely one of a organic bean. I get mine from Costa Rica, and now I've been learning more about these anti-nutrients and mycotoxins that come in other crops and coffee in particular, and specifically around the idea of mold on these coffee beans and how mold in our body can actually have a really devastating effect and create all kinds of health issues around that. And so the Bulletproof, and I just actually got this for the first time and had it. Did I have my first cup of this? Because I just finished my Costa Rica coffee that I have had that's organic and just went through my last bag. And so I ordered this. This is from Bulletproof. So Carrie was laughing earlier today saying she thought Bulletproof was a machine and was going to ask for one for Christmas, which I loved because, like, who knows, right? But it's Bulletproof is the brand name. David Osprey, his name is spelled Asprey, is a self-proclaimed biohack. I have mentioned him before on these calls because I have to take what he says with a grain of salt. I'm not saying that I don't think that everything that he is saying is true, but it is not for the average person. So he has tried to hack his way into everything. He's a former science guy and wants to get the best and the most efficient use out of his body, out of his brain, out of his sleep. Like, he's hacked himself into a way of getting only 4 hours of sleep, and is saying that if you're sleeping any more than that, then you're wasting your time. So that's not the average person, and unless you're actually like perfect in all of those areas, you're going to run yourself out. So Bulletproof coffee is this, but what really makes it the Bulletproof is this. It's this, which is a brain octane. This comes from coconut oil, And you can use coconut oil if you want. The difference with this is it has no flavor to it. It stays liquid, and you can add this to your coffee and then with grass-fed butter. So we have talked about this, and Carrie got another grass-fed butter that she found in the grocery store as well. It's important, just like we've talked about everything when it comes to protein and, you know, the beef that we're eating and what they're eating is going to have an impact on us as well. So we all know, and we've talked about this before, that fat is what helps our hormones balance. It what allows us to get fat-soluble nutrients into our body. It's good for us. Our brain can work off of it. And so this coffee, I brew it in a French press. You can brew it any way that you want, but I do it in a French press. And then I put a tablespoon of the grass-fed butter with a tablespoon of this oil, and you work up to that. Like, you don't just start with a tablespoon because your stomach will eliminate all of it. And Angela, who does not have a gallbladder, and there's many people who don't, might have a problem with this too, of putting all that fat into their system. Your body can actually dump bile on it, and you can end up with some other really not such great effects. So be careful when you're adding this. But then I use a stick blender, like the immersion blenders, and I blend it. And I also am adding collagen protein to that, which I can share that with you guys as well too. It's something new that we're adding. I think that I have talked to you guys about making sure that my household, who is trying to go more vegetarian, is actually getting the things and the nutrients that we need, because otherwise we're deficient, we're having other health issues. And so have had this compromise of putting bone broth and collagen into different kinds of things so that we can bring more of those nutrients and amino acids back into our diet. So then you mix that with an immersion blender, and it creates this really nice frothy foam on it. It's almost creamy, and it's delicious, and it's adding value to your health because it's adding that good fat, and you can actually work off of that. It makes your brain work more efficiently. I don't have to eat, because if you're doing this and we're not counting calories and identifying kind of calories in, calories out, but if I'm adding a tablespoon of this of butter, that's 100 calories, and then a tablespoon of this is 130 calories. So right there, that's 230 calories, which is a snack, right? Like, I don't need to have a meal. I can have this as a snack before I have my breakfast, or you can have multiple cups of the coffee, and it can serve as a meal replacement. And some people will put that in there with intermittent fasting, where they'll have that in the morning and then they won't eat lunch until 1 o'clock in the afternoon or so. But it's a good way to get that, the warmth and the coffee taste, and actually some benefits to our health in there with getting those hormone balancing kind of fats and brain feeding fats that most of us are deficient in into our body. So I love it. And you can add some vanilla powder to it to get that vanilla flavor if you want. You could also add pumpkin spice and even a pumpkin puree to it to give yourself a pumpkin latte kind of feel if you want. You can also add stevia drops, or even like the True Leaf, like powdered stevia, to give it some sweetness if you want. All of those are really good ways that you can have yummy, delicious coffee that's adding value instead of detracting value, as long as you're working with a good quality bean.
I wanted to say that I like to make my coffee. I mix my vanilla P96 into my coffee.
Nice.
And then it's like a vanilla latte. It's so good. And I don't have to put anything else in there, just coffee and P96.
Like how much of the P96, Angela?
I put the whole packet in there.
Oh.
I put the whole packet of P96 with about 10 ounces of coffee, and I blend it up in my Ninja, and then I have myself like a nice, foamy vanilla latte, and then I go off to work And so I've gotten my protein and my coffee if I need a bump in the morning.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. That sounds cool. I've never heard of that. That sounds good.
Good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the vanilla P96 also works really well with coconut milk and matcha powder. And so then you get a nice green tea latte.
Okay.
And again, you don't have to add any sugar. You don't have to add any cream, because it's all in that P96, like the sweetener and the whey protein is in there. So it's light cream.
Right. And Kim, with could I use like a ghee instead of a grass-fed
Yes.
butter?
You absolutely can. And I'm
Okay.
glad you mentioned that because I had forgotten. Like, you definitely can use a ghee.
And you use a collagen powder?
It's collagen
Which one
powder.
Which one do you like?
I'm just starting to play with it. The one that I got is, it's in a blue container. I should have brought it upstairs. I'll
That's
let
okay.
you know what it is. No flavor to it. It mixes equally as well in cold and hot liquids, which some of them do not. And so that's one thing that I was paying attention to. And making sure that it's organic and grass-fed, whatever your collagen source is. Bulletproof also has some collagen, but I can't find by reading it that it's all grass-fed. So I wasn't going to buy that. But yeah, so that's adding, like, you can put collagen. Angela, I was thinking about you too. Adding collagen is a way that you can get additional protein, because 2 scoops of collagen has anywhere between 18 and 20 grams of protein.
What about marine collagen? How do you feel about that?
I don't know.
Because I have been doing some research on collagen because I wanted to start using it. And I'm seeing a lot of things that say that marine collagen is better because it's more digestible by your body or something like that. But then you see the converse of that, where they say marine collagen is bad because of, mercury in the ocean and because it comes from fish and blah, blah, blah. And they say that it tastes like fish and, whatever, like, different brands have different things. And if it tastes like fish or smells like fish, I want no part of it.
Especially not in coffee or a smoothie. I'm sorry.
Gross. Yeah. It's bad enough when I try to drink spirulina powder like that. Ooh, it's some potent stuff.
Yes.
But I can actually, if I make a green tea latte with my coconut milk, green tea matcha powder, vanilla P96, I can totally put a teaspoon of spirulina in there and I can't taste it.
Okay.
The P96 seriously covers up almost anything.
I love when you talk about that. So that's the coffee thing is, the most important thing, I think you guys all said it too, is recognizing that the creamer is what you have an issue with, and that's where you're going for. The different flavors, that kind of creamy flavor, it might be the vanilla, it might be the pumpkin. Finding healthy alternatives for that is a good way to go down that road. Kind of deconstruct where those cravings are coming from and ask yourself, is there a healthier way to do this? That carrageenan, talked about it before, but carrageenan hides in those creamers as well. I think most of them are getting better to keep it out, but be mindful when you're doing any of those kinds of things, even if it is coconut milk, which is a better milk. Whatever your friend Carrie was saying about how can you really milk a coconut.
Okay, brother, he's a pain.
Yeah. Then she said coffee bean milk, and I was like, oh, so you can milk coffee beans, but you can't milk coconut?
Such a pain.
I thought it was funny, entertaining. Excuse me.
Yeah. And my friend says they call almond milk just because nobody can say nut juice with a straight face.
Oh, that's so classic.
That's good.
So even, it's like, even as you're coming up with these healthier alternatives, still be flipping it around, reading the labels, because you don't want to trade one kind of a poison for another. and just be very aware. And then you can make educated decisions about what you're putting into your body, how you're filling your cravings. And if there's something that you're finding that you are craving, throw it out there in the team page and say, what would you guys do if you're craving this and, oh my gosh, I just can't get enough of this? Are there alternatives? Look at primary foods and say, what am I deficient in? Am I overstressed? Am I unhappy in a relationship? Is there lots of things that are going on right now that's also causing these cravings? Trying to deconstruct them.
I also read a thing that said that if you have really like bad nonstop chocolate cravings, you might be deficient in magnesium.
Yes.
What?
It is so true. It's like there's lots of things that can be there, and we all know that most people are deficient in magnesium, and it comes out in chocolate. Water is another thing, and I thought that this was very interesting. So I don't think that in our discussions that we have all had together, I don't think any of us are doubling our water intake that we should be. Like, we're all working consciously to get to what our water intake should be. But dehydration can cause cravings. It can make you feel hungry when you're not. So if you're having a craving, drink a glass of water. And then the flip side is true as well. Like, if you've had way too much water, you can actually create cravings that way too. And it's because it's flushing some of the nutrients that are in your body out, and that can also cause some cravings. I thought this was interesting. There's, of course, hormonal things. Like, we can talk about that as women. And those are real. Just try to keep a check on, okay, what's going on? Are there ways that I can do some meditation, some gentle movement, some massage, something like that to help us with hormonal swings that might lead to some cravings. And I thought that this was really interesting, that there is this mechanism in our brain that when things are going really well for us, our subconscious is like, this can't be happening. And so we will eat something to sabotage ourselves, whether it's sugar or something like that, because then your body's natural instinct is to come in and like save yourself. So I thought that was an interesting thought and something to think of if ever we're in a place where everything is going right and then all of a sudden you've eaten, I don't know, the entire Swan's Ice Cream Man truck full of ice cream, that maybe there's some of that self-sabotage going in there. So cravings, interesting, right? They're not all bad, but there is a reason for them all. And one of the things, like I know most of you said sweet, we definitely have some savory issues in here as well, but there's lots of things, and especially I think during this time of year, that we can satisfy some of those sweet cravings with vegetables. There are some vegetables that tend to be sweeter, and they happen to be in season right now too. What can you guys think of?
Yams.
Yes. Yams for sure.
Squash.
Yes. Those winter squashes. Sweet potatoes, those kind of fall in there with the yams. Corn. I'm not a big fan of corn just because most of them are GMO, but that can be sweeter too once it's been cooked. Carrots are really, yeah. Onions, the sweet Vidalia onions, and beets even. Are you guys beet fans? No. We're all thankful it comes in our pink drinks so that we don't have to eat them.
Yeah. I wish I liked them. I know how good they are for you, but I can't. It's maybe the one vegetable I don't like.
It's so interesting.
I love them. I think they're really great.
I do too, love them. And we've talked about an Instapot. Man, they cook amazingly in an Instapot, and then the skins just fall right off of them. You don't have to peel them ahead of time.
So what do you have to put anything else in the Instapot with them?
Just water. Just like a cup of water, and you end up steaming them. And then when they come out, you just let them cool just a little bit, and then the peels just come right off. And then we put butter and salt and pepper on them, slice them and eat them.
Actually, I have to say, I have never tried. My brother keeps telling me this, that I need to try them roasted.
Oh, so good roasted.
Because when I say I don't like beets, the only way I've ever had them is in a juice.
Oh,
No, like in a green juice where they put the beets, and I can't do that.
no,
Ugh.
that's
I
really
can't do it
earthy, especially because they might be raw. Are they raw?
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
Roasting it is delicious. And
I'll
that,
have to try that.
yes. I love roasting vegetables, and especially right now during the fall, where you can take those different vegetables and peel them and chop them into similar sized chunks, toss them with some olive oil and some salt and pepper, super simple, and then roast them in an oven and then take them out, toss them up, add some more grass-fed butter to them or ghee or some of those things, putting that really good fat in there. Or I even like coconut oil because it adds some additional sweetness to that too. A sprinkle of cinnamon. Oh my gosh, it's like candy in a bowl. So that's one really good way that you can get some vegetables and satisfy that sweet craving as well.
Kim, this might be off the subject, but vinegar. So like a lot of the beets are in vinegar.
Uh-huh.
I'm starting to think about these cravings that I've been having, but vinegar and salt has been very hot right now, and kale and cilantro. And
Interesting.
I know that you said one time with the kale that it like feeds the fungus, and I was reading about cilantro and how it has to do with hormonal imbalances.
Mm.
So, but anyway, that's probably what I've been craving, but I'm wondering what your thoughts are with these beets that are in vinegar.
So it depends. Like, so a pickled beet, the most important thing there is to look at the sugar content. Because more often than not, when they're commercially pickling something like that, there's going to be sugar in there too. So I would steer clear of those and do whole ones, cook them on your own, and get the non-pickled ones. If you want the simplicity of having something cooked already, get them cooked, just packed in their own juices, and then you can take them out, heat them if you want. I like beets cold. And then you can add some vinegar, like if it's still you want that kind of that tart flavor that goes with it, add some
Uh,
vinegar after the fact with some butter, salt, and pepper, but stay away from the ones that have sugar in them. And even canned things have BPA or can have BPA in the lining of the can, which is also not good for our overall hormonal health.
okay, thank you.
Yes, and the kale, it's raw kale that is one of those things that can add to the mold, the anti-nutrients, those mycotoxins that David Osprey is talking about. Some people can tolerate them fine, and
Mhm.
some not. So if you're eating them and you find that you're having issues, then maybe let's pull that back and see if that might be the culprit.
Like what kind of issues? What would be an example?
I would. It's
I
almost.
have inflammation sometimes,
You
honestly.
have, Carrie?
Inflammation, I notice that I get inflamed.
Yeah, it's almost like an autoimmune response, Angela. It can be inflammatory is the big thing, especially if it's because of the mold in there. They can have that inflammatory response. Headaches, achiness, just kind of blah feeling may be from that. And raw spinach is another one of those things that can do it too.
Huh.
And also nightshades. Nightshades are can be a trigger for lots of people with autoimmune issues or inflammation issues. And nightshades are like lots of things. Onion,
Tomatoes, eggplant.
tomatoes, yes, potatoes, those kinds of things. And so, as people are having different kinds of things and are cleaning up their diet, they want to pay attention to that as well. Did anybody try some new proteins that since the last time we talked, we were talking about good quality proteins. So did anybody try anything new?
I had yesterday. I had Trader Joe's masala veggie burgers for lunch,
Oh, how was
which
that?
I did not read. The package. The top two ingredients were potatoes and carrots, so it might not have been the best thing, but it was really tasty. Like the flavor on them and the feel of them in your mouth was really good.
Interesting.
And it, yeah, my friend and I, we take turns buying food, and then we cook it at work. So we take turns basically buying each other lunch and then cooking it at work.
Nice.
And so, yeah, and she's kind of vegetarian right now because she's taking anatomy at school, and she has to keep dissecting a bunch of animals, and so she can't stand it. She doesn't want to eat anything.
That's how that happens. That's interesting. So I saw a can of jackfruit, and I thought of you also at Trader Joe's.
Yeah. I haven't tried it yet. My son is actually coming to stay with me for the next 4 months. He'll be here this weekend, and he is vegan, so we are going to have fun experimenting with all different kinds of foods.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear.
And he loves beets, and he promises that he's going to make me like them too.
Oh, good. That's awesome.
I hate beets. I think they're so gross. I can't stand it.
I love them. I do love them. Carol, did you try anything new?
No, I didn't.
That's okay. How is your choices for lunches and stuff? Are you feeling good about those? You were going to be working on doing some prep on Sundays. Have you had a chance to do that?
Okay, prep on Sundays has not worked out very well.
Okay.
But instead of grabbing a can of soup, I'm grabbing a can of vegetables. I've bought some organic soups, because it's easy. I grab it.
Yep, and I think that's awesome. We talked about that. Soup is not bad. Making sure the ingredients are quality and moving to an organic, good for you. That's a celebration. Let's see. Okay, so as we go into the next week, I will share some stuff about the bulletproof coffee, just in case you guys want to have that. I'll put my collagen powder in there that I've been trying, seeing how I can sneak some more of those types of things in there. What else would you guys like to see for any of the things that we have covered so far, which has been primary foods and tracking our foods and making sure that we're doing more positives than we are negatives, organic veggies when we can, good clean proteins, more fats. I think that's one of the things that we're still working on here in this house, is to make sure that we're getting enough. And then addressing these cravings as we go through the holidays and paying really attention to what we're going through.
I think also during the holidays, I miss my mom a lot. She doesn't live near me, so I don't usually get to see her during the holidays. And I miss her. And my mom is a baker by trade. Like, that's what she has done for a living for a lot of years. She's retired now. But you can imagine that as a child, I ate a lot of cakes and cookies.
Yes.
And so during the holidays, I miss my mom. So I want the things, like my favorite things that she would make when I was a kid. And even when I make them for myself, like, I might eat 1 or 2 pieces and then I'm done with it and I don't want it anymore. Then I take it to work and give it away to my coworkers.
Right.
But I think that me wanting those particular cookies or pies or whatever it is, it's more about the memory that comes with that than it is about the actual food itself.
Yes.
What I really want is my mom.
Yes. And I think it's really important that, and really impressive that you recognize that, because so many times we don't recognize what it is that we're really looking for. And so with that, you might find some ways that you can fill that gap by actually getting some more of your mom, maybe creating new memories if it's, if it's having conversations with her, which I know you talk to your mom a lot, doing special things that can bring you together and create new memories, especially across the miles, since you're not close to her. But I think you're right. It's really important for us to remember who we're trying to kind of fill those needs with. And as we go through the holidays, they can be sad for people who are missing loved ones who have passed on, or people in family that are not with us because of miles or whatever. And just being really present and aware to that and understanding what we can do to fill that from an emotional standpoint too is really healthy for us. Anybody else have anything? What's one thing that each of you guys are going to work on for the next week?
I'm changing the coffee. That mold is disgusting. Like the pesticides and like what you said about I am done with that. So. I've been really trying to like focus, and there's honestly a lot of mornings that I don't have coffee, but when it's been colder, it's a comfort thing for me, I think. And so I've been getting it more, but honestly, like when I drink it, I'm sore. I'm really sore, like the next day, and so
and
I've really been trying to think that. But with this information you've been giving about the bulletproof, is there a website that you get it, or do you get it from like Trader Joe's, or where do you get this?
It's interesting. So there is a bulletproof website. Their shipping is slower. You can get bulletproof from Amazon. So if you're Amazon Prime, that's actually where I get my oil from, is from there. And then they also sell bulletproof at Whole Foods, I think, and also Sprouts. I'm like, I almost called it Sunflower Market again.
Well, I'm really glad that I don't have to spend a couple $100s on a machine, so thank you.
Yes. How about you, Carol? What's one thing that you're going to work on this week?
Well, I think I'm going to switch direction just a little bit. I've got a lot of the P96 that I haven't really used. I need to focus on using that, trying coffee, even if I don't have organic coffee. Try it in that and see. I've got both flavors, so.
Okay. Do you like the flavor or do you not? Or what are you finding with that? Because we can give some good recipes too to bulk for a good meal replacement.
I'd be happy to get any meal replacement ideas.
Okay.
It's okay. It just seems like I'm so rushed in the morning. I don't do that, and I need to make the time. 5 minutes. That's all I need is 5 minutes. So.
Right. Okay. Do you have a blender at your office? I know you're out like you're not in an office sitting down at all, but.
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay. Awesome.
If you have like one of those magic bullet blenders, like pretty much everybody has one of those things, or you can get one at Target pretty cheap. If you have a magic bullet, you could measure out your coconut milk the night before, put it in the bullet cup, put it in the refrigerator, put your P96 right next to the bullet base. And sometimes I mix my Slim in with my P96 as well, and then it makes like a nice little fruity kind of flavored shake. And then all you have to do in the morning is grab the bullet container out of the fridge, dump the P96 packet in there, throw 2 or 3 ice cubes in there, slap it on the bullet base, blend it up, and out the door you go with your protein shake.
Yep. And I always add, especially if you're doing something for breakfast, it is not enough on its own. So adding things like almond butter to it, coconut oil to it, even collagen powder to give you some additional protein if you want, because you go so long in between meals, you need to bulk it up because you're not getting enough.
Right.
And so adding those additional things, it's a great way to sneak some more vegetables in. I love the idea of doing it ahead of time. I think that's great. You can do spinach and some berries, and you can put them in individual baggies that are in the freezer, and you pull those out and throw those in as well. Lots of different versions and variations that you can do, but adding fat and additional protein to that so that you bulk it up is going to be one of the tricks there.
I do find that if I'm going to mix my P96 with hot coffee, then I can put coconut oil in there, and it's great because when you mix it with hot coffee, it tends to like get really frothy. And then sometimes when I take the top off of my blender, it spews all over the place because it has pressure inside there.
Uh-huh.
And so if I put a little bit of coconut oil in there, the oil keeps it from foaming up. Like the oil, prevents that foam from happening.
Uh-huh.
And then it doesn't go all over. But if you put coconut oil into a cold beverage with ice, then the coconut oil has a tendency to get kind of chunky in there. Like it doesn't spread out because it's, solid when it's cold.
Yep. So
there's
there's definitely
putting
ways. Yeah.
Like I'll put macadamia nut oil in there instead because it doesn't do that.
Yeah, that's a good option. How about you, Stacy? What's one thing you're gonna work on this week?
I'm going to, I feel the best when I eat a lot of greens. So I had been, just eating a lot of salads and stuff. And then as the weather's gotten colder, I've kind of gotten away from that. So I need to just add that back in because I always feel better with the more dark leafy greens I have. So that's something that I just today was like, make the extra time, make yourself a salad.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like my mom and Brenda, we went out the other night and they're like, we'll have salads. And I'm like, that's the last thing I want right now. It's cold outside. So
But what I try to do in the wintertime or in the fall, winter, is just have my salad, but then have maybe like a leftover cup of soup or a broth or just something to just so there's still warmth there.
Mm-hmm.
And then just to make the extra time. But I'm also going to try and roast some beets. I'm going to try that and just see if maybe I'll like them. Who knows?
Excellent. I love it. And how about you, Angela? What's one thing you're going to work on?
I am going to work on alternative protein sources because, like I said, my son is coming and he is vegan. On Saturday, I plan to cook a full vegan meal for the entire family.
Wow.
So I am going to make spaghetti squash spaghetti. So spaghetti squash with, I found this really tasty vegetable marinara, which has like big chunks of carrots and tomatoes and onions and stuff in it. And it was so delicious. Nice. And then I was going to get some of the, the meat substitute crumbles. It looks like ground beef, but it's not meat, obviously.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's my goal, is to work on alternative protein sources.
Awesome. Sounds wonderful. Well, you guys, thank you so much for showing up and being here. I'm super excited about addressing these cravings and adding some more in and scheduling the rest of your guys's coaching sessions and continuing to work on through the holidays healthy and aware. So thank you all very much. Continue doing all the great work, and I will see you next week. Take care.
Thanks, Kim.
Bye, everybody.